The sound hit Maya Chen like a physical force the moment she stepped through the servants' entrance of the Castellano estate. Not music, not laughter, not the refined murmur of wealth and privilege she'd expected. Screaming. A child's voice, raw and desperate, echoing through the marble halls with such intensity that Maya's chest tightened instinctively. She'd heard children cry before. God knows she'd heard plenty growing up in a house with 4 younger siblings. But this was different. This wasn't tantrum crying or attention-seeking wailing. This was pain. "Don't just stand there gawking," Mrs. Castellano, the head housekeeper, snapped, her severely pulled-back gray hair matching the tight line of her mouth. "That's just Matteo. You'll get used to it." Maya followed the older woman through corridors that probably cost more than her entire neighborhood in Queens. Crystal chandeliers hung from 20-foot ceilings. Artwork that belonged in museums decorated walls painted in muted, expensive colors. Her worn sneakers, the nicest shoes she owned, squeaked against floors so polished she could see her reflection. The screaming continued, punctuated now by crashes. Something breaking. Adult voices raised in frustration. "How long has he been?" Maya started. 3 hours this time," Mrs. Castellano interrupted without breaking stride. "Could go another 2 before he exhausts himself. The nannies have learned to just stay clear when he gets like this." "Like what?" Mrs. Castellano stopped at a door, her hand on the knob, her expression hardening. "Look, Miss Chen, you seem like a nice girl. You need this job. I can tell by those shoes and the way you kept staring at the subway fare like it hurt to pay it. So let me be clear about the rules here." Maya straightened her spine, lifting her chin despite the fear coiling in her stomach. "I'm listening. Mr. Castellano is not a man you cross, not ever. He runs half of New York, and the half he doesn't run knows better than to challenge him. You clean what you're assigned. You don't ask questions. You don't gossip. You don't exist unless someone addresses you directly." The older woman's eyes bored into hers. "And most importantly, you stay away from Matteo. The boy who's screaming? Mr. Castellano's son. He's difficult. Special needs, they call it, though between you and me, the child is simply broken. Autistic, nonverbal most days, violent when he's upset. We've gone through 11 nannies in 8 months. Maya's heart clenched. 11? He's dangerous when he has his episodes. Bites, scratches, throws things. The last nanny needed stitches. Mrs. Castellano opened the door to reveal a small but clean room, Maya's new quarters. "Mr. Castellano pays triple the normal rate because of the challenges. But the money isn't worth it if you end up in the emergency room. So stay away from the boy. Let the professionals handle him. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you." After Mrs. Castellano left, Maya sat on the edge of the narrow bed, her hands trembling slightly as she pulled out her phone. 3 missed calls from her mother, 2 texts from her younger brother asking about money for his school trip. A reminder that rent was due in 5 days, and she was still $800 short. She'd been cleaning office buildings at night, working retail during the day, sending every spare dollar home to help her family after her father's heart attack left him unable to work. The medical bills had buried them. Her mother was working double shifts at the garment factory. Her siblings were struggling. This job, this impossible, terrifying job in a mansion owned by a man whose name made people cross themselves, was supposed to be her salvation. $3,000 a month, plus room and board. It was more than she made at both her other jobs combined. But as another crash echoed through the mansion, followed by that soul-wrenching scream, Maya wondered what she'd really signed up for. She made it exactly 47 minutes before she broke the first rule. Maya had been assigned to clean the second-floor guest wing, a series of pristine rooms that looked like they'd never been used. She worked methodically, the way her mother had taught her, paying attention to details because excellence was the only thing that separated the forgettable from the indispensable. But the screaming hadn't stopped. If anything, it had gotten worse, more desperate, more broken. Maya tried to focus on her work, on the intricate carving of a bedpost she was dusting, on anything except that sound. But her hands kept stilling, her chest kept tightening. She thought about her youngest brother, Tommy, who'd had sensory issues as a toddler. The way certain textures made him cry, the way sudden noises sent him into meltdowns that lasted hours. Her mother had learned to recognize the signs, to understand what he needed even when he couldn't articulate it. "The world is just too loud for him sometimes," her mother had explained, holding 5-year-old Maya while Tommy screamed in the background. "He's not being bad. He's overwhelmed. He needs us to make the world smaller, quieter, safer. Tommy had outgrown most of it by the time he turned 6, but Maya remembered. She remembered the specific pitch of his cries when he was in sensory overload versus when he was just tired. She remembered what helped and what made it worse. And the child screaming somewhere in this mansion sounded exactly like Tommy used to sound. Before she could talk herself out of it, Maya set down her cleaning supplies and followed the sound. She found the source on the 3rd floor, in what must have been the family wing. The door was partially open, and through it she could see chaos. A bedroom that had once been carefully organized was now destroyed. Books torn from shelves, their pages scattered like snow. Toys smashed against walls. A lamp lay shattered on the floor, its shade crumpled. Curtains had been ripped down, letting harsh afternoon sunlight pour through windows. And in the center of it all, a boy. He looked about 7 years old, small for his age, with dark hair that stuck up in every direction and olive skin flushed red from exertion. He wore noise-canceling headphones around his neck, not on his ears, Maya noticed, but around his neck, and his hands moved in repetitive patterns, flapping rapidly at his sides. His eyes were squeezed shut, his mouth open in that continuous scream that had been echoing through the mansion for hours. 3 women stood at a safe distance, 2 nannies in crisp uniforms and Mrs. Castellano. They looked exhausted, helpless, scared. "Matteo, please," one of the nannies was saying, her voice strained. "You need to calm down. Your father will be home soon and—" The boy's screaming intensified. He grabbed another book and hurled it across the room with surprising strength. It hit the wall inches from the nanny's head, making her shriek and stumble backward. "That's it," Mrs. Castellano said sharply. "Call Mr. Castellano. Tell him we need the sedative." "No," Maya heard herself say. All 3 women spun toward her. "What are you doing up here?" Mrs. Castellano demanded. "I specifically told you—" "He doesn't need a sedative," Maya said, stepping fully into the doorway. Her heart hammered against her ribs, but her voice was steady. "He needs the sensory input to stop. Miss Chen, leave, now!" But Maya was already moving into the room, her movement slow and deliberate. She'd spotted what the others had missed. The fluorescent lights overhead were flickering slightly, almost imperceptibly. The kind of flicker that most people wouldn't notice, but that would feel like knives to someone with sensory processing issues. Matteo's eyes snapped open as she approached. They were dark brown, almost black, and filled with such fear and frustration that Maya's breath caught. He wasn't looking at her like she was a threat. He was looking at her like she was just another part of the overwhelming chaos. "It's okay," Maya said softly, not moving closer. "I'm going to help." She reached up and flipped off the overhead lights. The sudden dimness seemed to shock everyone in the room into silence, everyone except Matteo, whose screaming faltered, then stopped entirely. He stood frozen, his hands still flapping but slower now, his eyes darting around the room as if seeing it for the first time. "The lights were hurting him," Maya explained quietly, still not moving toward the boy. "And I'm guessing there's a sound too, something high-pitched that most people can't hear." Mrs. Castellano looked like she wanted to argue, but one of the nannies suddenly gasped. "The smoke detector. We had it replaced last week. It's been making a noise. I thought I was imagining it." Maya pointed to the small device on the ceiling. "Can you take the battery out?" The nanny scrambled to comply, dragging a chair over and reaching up. The moment the battery disconnected, Matteo's entire body seemed to sag. His hands stopped flapping. His breathing, which had been rapid and shallow, started to slow. Maya crouched down about 10 feet away from him, making herself smaller, less threatening. "Hi, Matteo," she said softly. "My name is Maya. That must have felt really bad, huh? Like everything was too much all at once?" The boy stared at her, his chest still heaving slightly. He didn't respond. Nonverbal, Mrs. Castellano had said, but his eyes tracked her face with surprising intensity. "I had a brother who used to feel like that sometimes," Maya continued, her voice low and rhythmic, the same tone she'd used with Tommy during his worst moments. The world would get too loud, too bright, too much, and all he could do was scream because there weren't words big enough for that feeling. Matteo's head tilted slightly, still watching, still listening. Maya noticed his hands moving again, but differently now, not the distressed flapping from before, but a more controlled movement. Stimming, she realized, self-regulating. She started humming. It wasn't a conscious decision. The melody just rose from somewhere deep in her memory, a Chinese lullaby her grandmother used to sing. Yue liang dai biao wo de xin. The moon represents my heart. Simple, repetitive, soothing. Her grandmother had sung it in Mandarin, the tones rising and falling like gentle waves. Maya didn't sing the words, she just hummed the melody, letting it fill the space between them. Matteo went absolutely still. Then, slowly, his hands stopped moving. His eyes, which had been darting around frantically, fixed on her face. And for the first time since she'd entered the room, he looked calm. Maya kept humming, keeping her body relaxed, non-threatening. She'd learned with Tommy that sometimes the best thing you could do was just be present without demanding anything. No eye contact requirements, no forced interaction, just presence. After a full minute of humming, Matteo took a step toward her. The nannies tensed, but Maya raised one hand slightly, wait, and kept humming. Another step, then another. Matteo walked right up to her and sat down on the floor, maybe 3 feet away, close enough to be in her space but not touching. He pulled his knees to his chest and wrapped his arms around them, rocking slightly. Maya finished the lullaby once, then started it again from the beginning. Matteo's rocking synchronized with the rhythm. Impossible, one of the nannies breathed. He doesn't let anyone near him when he's like this. Maya didn't respond. She just kept humming, watching Matteo from her peripheral vision. His breathing had normalized. His body was still tense, but the panic had drained away, replaced by what looked like exhaustion. When she finished the lullaby the second time, Matteo did something that made everyone in the room gasp. He started humming it back to her. His voice was soft, uncertain, not quite hitting all the notes correctly, but it was unmistakably the same melody. He was humming with her. Tears pricked Maya's eyes, but she kept her voice steady as she started the lullaby a third time. This time, Matteo hummed along from the beginning, his voice getting slightly stronger, more confident. They were still humming together when the door slammed open. What the hell is going on in here? The voice was like thunder, deep, commanding, dangerous. Maya's humming faltered as a man strode into the room, and every person except her and Matteo immediately straightened to attention. Dante Castellano. Maya had never seen him before. She'd been hired by Mrs. Castellano, not the man himself. But there was no mistaking who he was. He stood at least 6'3", his broad shoulders filling out a black suit that probably cost more than her family's annual rent. His dark hair was perfectly styled. The one strand had fallen across his forehead as if he'd been running his hands through it. His face was all sharp angles, strong jaw, high cheekbones, a nose that had been broken at least once. But it was his eyes that stopped her breath. Dark, intense, filled with barely controlled fury and something deeper, desperation. Those eyes swept the destroyed room, taking in the shattered lamp, the torn books, the 3 frozen staff members. Then they landed on Maya and Matteo, sitting on the floor together, and something in his expression cracked. "Matteo!" he breathed. The boy's head turned toward his father, and Maya saw his body tense again, preparing to spiral back into distress. Without thinking, she started humming again. Matteo's attention snapped back to her, and after a heartbeat, he joined in. The tension in his small body eased. Dante Castellano stared at them like he was witnessing a miracle or a threat. Maya couldn't tell which. "Mr. Castellano?" Mrs. Castellano started, her voice nervous. "This is Maya Chen, the new housekeeper. I can see what she did," Dante interrupted, his eyes never leaving Maya. He took a step closer, and Maya felt the full weight of his presence. This was a man who commanded rooms, who made people obey with a look, who built an empire on fear and control. And right now, he looked like he didn't know whether to fire her or fall to his knees. "How?" His voice was rough, almost broken. "How did you do that?" Maya met his gaze, refusing to look away, even though every instinct screamed at her to submit, to apologize, to make herself small. "I listened to what he needed instead of trying to make him be what everyone else wanted." The room fell silent except for Matteo's soft humming. Dante Castellano's jaw clenched. A muscle ticked in his cheek. His hands, Maya noticed, were clenched into fists at his sides. Then he did something that shocked everyone. He crouched down, slowly, carefully, until he was at eye level with his son. "Matteo," he said softly, and the gentleness in his voice was completely at odds with his dangerous exterior. "Can Papa come closer?" Matteo stopped humming. He looked at his father, then at Maya, then back at his father. Then, in a voice so soft Maya almost missed it, he spoke. Song. One word. Barely audible, but definitely a word. Dante's face transformed, the dangerous mask cracking to reveal raw emotion underneath. You want me to sing? Matteo looked at Maya expectantly. He wants us to sing together, Maya said quietly. The lullaby calms him. Maybe if you hum it with us? I don't know the song. Just follow along. It's simple. For a long moment, Dante Castellano, the man who ran New York's most powerful crime family, looked uncertain, vulnerable. Then he nodded once, sharply. Maya started the lullaby again. Matteo joined in immediately, and after a few bars, Dante's deep voice added a third layer, hesitant at first but growing stronger. They hummed together, a crime boss, his autistic son, and a housekeeper from Queens, creating a moment of harmony in a room that had been pure chaos just minutes before. When the lullaby ended, Matteo stood up. He walked past Maya, past the shocked staff members, straight to his father, and he hugged him. Dante's arms came around his son instantly, his large hands cradling the small body with infinite gentleness. He buried his face in Matteo's hair, and his shoulders shook with silent emotion. Thank you, he whispered into his son's hair. Then he lifted his head and looked at Maya with an intensity that made her pulse race. Thank you. Maya opened her mouth to respond, but Mrs. Castellano cut in sharply. Miss Chen, you were explicitly told not to. She stays. Dante's voice was quiet, but absolute. He stood, lifting Matteo with him. The boy wrapped his legs around his father's waist and rested his head on his shoulder, exhausted. Mr. Castellano, she violated direct orders. She could have been hurt. If something had happened, she did what 11 trained professionals couldn't do. Dante's dark eyes pinned Mrs. Castellano in place. She reached my son, so she stays. He looked back at Maya. You're fired as a housekeeper. As of now, you work for me directly, Matteo's caregiver. Name your price. Maya's mind reeled. Mr. Castellano, I'm not qualified. I don't have training in... You just did what therapists, specialists, and experts with degrees from Harvard couldn't accomplish. You calmed my son down from a meltdown that's been going for 3 hours. You did it in 5 minutes with a song and common sense. He shifted Matteo's weight slightly, his expression fierce. So I'll ask again. Name your price. Maya thought about her father's medical bills, her mother's exhausted face, her siblings' needs, the $800 she still owed for rent, and the hundreds more that would come, due next month and the month after. She thought about Matteo's desperate screams, about the fear in his eyes when the world became too much, about how that one word, song, had sounded like it cost him everything to say. $10,000 a month, she heard herself say, and I need you to understand something first. Dante's eyebrow rose. Yes? Your son isn't broken. He's not difficult or violent or any of the other things I've heard people call him today. He's autistic, which means his brain processes the world differently. What feels like normal light to you might feel like staring at the sun to him. Sounds you barely notice might feel like sirens in his ears. And when everything becomes too much, when the world is too loud and too bright and too everything, sometimes all he can do is scream. Maya stood up, brushing off her pants, meeting Dante's eyes directly. If I do this, if I take care of your son, you need to understand that I'm not going to fix him. I'm going to help him navigate a world that wasn't built for brains like his. I'm going to teach him ways to communicate when words are too hard. I'm going to help him feel safe, but I will never ever try to make him be someone he's not. The room was absolutely silent. Then Dante Castellano smiled, a real smile that transformed his entire face, making him look younger, less dangerous, heartbreakingly human. $15,000 a month, he said. Room next to Matteo's, full access to the family wing, and you start right now. He turned to Mrs. Castellano. Have Miss Chen's belongings moved to the guest suite in the East Wing. Make sure it's fully stocked with whatever she needs, and clear my schedule for the rest of the day. Sir, you have a meeting with the... Cancel it. Dante looked down at his son, still clinging to him, then back at Maya. Today my son is more important than business. For once in his life, he's more important than everything else. As he walked toward the door, Matteo lifted his head and looked at Maya over his father's shoulder. Their eyes met, and something passed between them. Recognition, trust, the beginning of something that felt bigger than either of them understood. Song tomorrow? Matteo asked, his voice soft but clear. Maya felt tears prick her eyes for the second time. Song tomorrow, she promised. "Song whenever you need it." Matteo gave her the ghost of a smile before tucking his face back into his father's neck. After they left, the room erupted in whispers, but Maya barely heard them. She stood in the destroyed bedroom, looking at the torn books and shattered lamp, trying to process what had just happened. She'd come here desperate for a job, for money, for a way to save her family from drowning in debt. Instead, she'd found a little boy who needed someone to understand him and a powerful man who was willing to move mountains to help his son. Maya Chen had just stepped into a world of danger and luxury and complexity she couldn't begin to imagine. But as she touched the place on her chest, where her heart still raced from Dante Castellano's intense gaze, she knew with absolute certainty that there was no going back. Her life had just changed forever. Maya's new suite in the East Wing was larger than her entire family's apartment in Queens. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked manicured gardens where fountains sparkled in the fading sunlight. The bedroom featured a king-sized bed with linens so soft they felt like clouds. The bathroom had heated floors, a rainfall shower, and a bathtub deep enough to swim in. There was even a sitting area with a couch, armchair, and a desk that faced the gardens. It was beautiful, luxurious, completely overwhelming. Maya stood in the center of it all, her worn duffel bag looking ridiculous against the elegant backdrop, and tried to process the last 4 hours of her life. A soft knock on the door made her turn. A young woman entered, carrying a tray with covered dishes. She had kind eyes and moved with the quiet efficiency of someone who'd worked in service for years. "Miss Chen, I'm Maria. Mrs. Castellano asked me to bring you dinner." "Thank you," Maya said, though her stomach was too tied in knots to think about food. "And please, just call me Maya." Maria set the tray on the desk, then hesitated. "Miss Maya, I just wanted to say what you did today with Matteo. It was amazing. I've been working here for 3 years, and I've never seen him that calm after a meltdown. Never heard him speak that clearly. He just needed someone to listen to what his body was telling him," Maya said softly. "Well, Mr. Castellano thinks you're a miracle worker. He's already called Dr. Morrison, Matteo's developmental pediatrician, and told her you'll be leading the care team from now on." Maria's smile was genuine. "The staff is relieved. We all love Matteo, but we haven't known how to help him. It's been breaking Mr. Castellano's heart." After Maria left, Maya finally let herself sit down on the edge of the enormous bed. She pulled out her phone and saw 6 missed calls from her mother. She called back immediately. "Maya!" Her mother's voice was tight with worry. "Where have you been? I've been calling for hours." "I'm sorry, Mama. Something happened at the new job. Something good, I think." Maya took a deep breath. "They promoted me. Instead of cleaning, I'm going to be taking care of the owner's son. He's autistic, and I helped him today when he was having a really hard time." Her mother was quiet for a moment. "This owner, he's the one the neighbor warned me about, the dangerous man?" "Yes," Maya admitted. There was no point lying. "But Mama, he loves his son. You should have seen his face when Matteo hugged him. I think he's more complicated than the stories make him seem. Or maybe he's exactly as dangerous as the stories say, and you're seeing what he wants you to see." Her mother's voice softened slightly. "But I trust your judgment, Bao Bao. You've always been smart about people. Just promise me you'll be careful." "I promise. And Maya, how much is this promotion paying?" $15,000 a month, plus room and board." The silence on the other end was deafening, then quietly, "15,000? Yes, Mama. That's..." Her mother's voice broke. "That's everything. That pays Papa's medical bills. That catches us up on rent. That's everything," Maya finished, her own voice thick with emotion. "I know." They talked for another 20 minutes, about her father's improving health, about Tommy's upcoming school play, about her younger sister's college applications. Normal family things that felt surreal in this palatial room. After they hung up, Maya finally ate the dinner Maria had brought. Roasted chicken with herbs she couldn't name, vegetables prepared in ways she'd never seen, bread that melted on her tongue. Every bite reminded her that she was in a different world now. At 9 o'clock, there was another knock. This time, Mrs. Castellano stood in the doorway, her expression neutral but her eyes sharp. "Mr. Castellano requests your presence in Matteo's room. The boy won't go to sleep." Maya followed her through the mansion's corridors, noticing details she'd missed earlier. Security cameras in every corner. Men in dark suits stationed at strategic points. The subtle bulges under their jackets that suggested weapons. This wasn't just a wealthy household. It was a fortress. Matteo's room was on the 3rd floor, connected to a master suite that must be Dante's. The door was open, warm light spilling into the hallway. Inside, Dante sat on the edge of a bed shaped like a race car, his suit jacket discarded, his sleeves rolled up. Matteo was in pajamas covered with dinosaurs, sitting cross-legged on the bed, his hands moving in that repetitive flapping motion Maya now recognized as stimming. Dante looked up when Maya entered, and the relief in his eyes was palpable. "He keeps asking for song," Dante said, standing. "I've tried humming what I remember from this afternoon, but—" He ran a hand through his hair, disheveling it. "I'm not doing it right." "May I?" Maya gestured to the bed. Dante nodded, stepping back to give her space. Maya sat down on the floor next to the bed. Not on it, not invading Matteo's space, just nearby. "Hi, Matteo. Ready for the song?" The boy's hands stilled. He looked at her, then nodded once. "Okay, close your eyes if that feels good. Or keep them open. Whatever you need." She started humming the lullaby, and Matteo immediately relaxed. His hands resumed their movement, but it was gentler now, rhythmic, synced with the melody. After the first verse, he started humming along. Maya glanced up and found Dante watching them with an expression that made her breath catch. It wasn't just gratitude or relief. It was something deeper, more complex, like he was seeing something he'd thought lost forever. When she finished, Matteo lay down, on his bed, pulling his weighted blanket up to his chin. His eyes were already drooping. "Song good," he murmured. "Maya good." Maya's heart squeezed. "Matteo good, too. Sleep well, sweetheart." Within minutes, he was asleep. Dante stood frozen, staring at his peacefully sleeping son. His voice was rough. "It usually takes hours, meltdowns, crying, fighting sleep, every single night for the past 8 months. "Since his mother died?" Maya asked softly. Dante's jaw tightened. "Yes." "Can we talk somewhere else? I don't want to risk waking him." He led her to his study, a room that perfectly captured the duality of Dante Castellano. One half was all business. Massive desk, computer setup with multiple monitors, filing cabinets with locks that probably required fingerprint access. The other half was surprisingly personal. Photographs of Matteo at various ages, artwork clearly done by a child's hand framed and displayed like masterpieces, a bookshelf filled with parenting books and autism resources. "Drink?" Dante asked, moving to a bar cart. "Water, please." He poured her water and himself 2 fingers of whiskey, then gestured to a leather couch. Maya sat, and he took the armchair across from her, maintaining a respectful distance. "Tell me about Matteo," Maya said. "Not the diagnosis or the medical history. Tell me about him." Dante was quiet for a moment, swirling the whiskey in his glass. "He's brilliant. Taught himself to read at 3.5. Can remember anything he sees or hears, photographic memory. He loves dinosaurs, trains, and music boxes." A small smile touched his lips. "He organizes his toys by color and size, and if you move anything, he knows immediately. He's particular about his food. Textures are difficult. But when he finds something he likes, he'll eat it every day for months without complaint. He's also kind," Dante continued, his voice softening further. "Last year, he found a bird with a broken wing in the garden. Wouldn't leave it alone until I called a wildlife rehabilitator. Checked on that bird every single day until it healed and flew away. Then he cried for a week because he missed it." Maya smiled. "He sounds wonderful." "He is. But the world?" Dante's expression hardened. "The world doesn't know what to do with children like him. Teachers said he was disruptive. Other parents said he was dangerous. The specialists kept trying to make him act normal, kept pushing therapies that made him miserable. And his mother. What was she like with him?" Pain flickered across Dante's face. "Isabella understood him in a way I never could. She'd worked with special needs children before we met, had a degree in developmental psychology. She knew how to reach him, how to communicate when he was nonverbal, how to prevent the meltdowns before they started." He took a long drink of whiskey. "When she died during his birth, Matteo lost his interpreter, and I lost mine. You had another child?" Maya asked carefully. "I thought Matteo was—" "Matteo is 7. Isabella died giving birth to our daughter, Sophia. She lived for 3 hours. Dante's voice was completely flat now, emotionless in the way of someone who'd locked their grief away to survive. I buried my wife and daughter on the same day, and I came home to a 7-year-old boy who couldn't understand why his mother was gone, why she'd promised to come home with a baby sister and instead never came home at all. Maya's eyes stung with unshed tears. I'm so sorry. Matteo regressed after that, stopped using the few words he'd learned, started having violent meltdowns multiple times a day, stopped sleeping. The specialist said it was trauma compounding his autism, that he needed time and therapy and patience. Dante's hands tightened on his glass. But 8 months later, he's worse, not better, and I've been helpless to do anything except watch my son suffer. He looked up at Maya, and the vulnerability in his eyes was devastating. Then you walked into his room this afternoon and did what I've been begging doctors and therapists to do for months. You saw him. Not the diagnosis, not the problem, not the challenge. You saw my son. Because that's all he needed, Maya said gently. Someone to see him. Dante stood abruptly and moved to the window, his back to her. I need you to understand something. My world is dangerous. People want to hurt me, and the easiest way to do that is through Matteo. That's why this mansion has more security than most government buildings. That's why armed men patrol the grounds. That's why I can't send him to regular school or let him play in public parks. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. He turned to face her. By taking this job, by getting close to him, you become a target too. Anyone who wants to hurt me will see you as leverage. Do you understand what that means? Maya's mouth went dry. You're saying someone might try to hurt me to get to you. I'm saying it's not a possibility. It's an inevitability. My enemies will learn about you within days if they haven't already. They'll know your name, your background, your family in Queens. They'll know everything. His dark eyes bored into hers. So I need to know right now if you're prepared for that. Because once you're in, once Matteo bonds with you, I can't let you leave. He can't lose another person he depends on. The weight of what he was saying settled over Maya like a physical thing. She thought about her family, about putting them in danger. She thought about the men with guns, about becoming a target, about entering a world where violence wasn't theoretical, but immediate. Then she thought about Matteo's voice saying, "Song good," about the peace on his face when he fell asleep, about how desperately he needed someone who understood him. What kind of protection are we talking about? She asked. Dante's expression shifted, approval mixed with something that looked like relief. You'll have a personal security detail any time you leave the estate. Your family's apartment will be monitored. Discreetly, they won't know, to ensure their safety. Your younger siblings' schools will have undercover security. Anyone who approaches your family will be vetted and watched. That sounds expensive. Matteo's safety is worth any cost, and now yours is too. Maya stood, moving closer to him. I need you to promise me something. Name it. My family can never know the real danger. My mother is already worried enough. If she knew the full extent... Maya shook her head. It would destroy her. Agreed. The security will be invisible. Dante studied her face. Anything else? Yes. I need you to trust my judgment with Matteo. I'm not a doctor or a therapist, but I know what it's like to be different, to process the world in ways other people don't understand. I need you to support my methods even when they seem unconventional. Done. And I need access to his medical records, therapy notes, everything. If I'm going to help him, I need to understand his full history. I'll have everything sent to your email by tomorrow morning. Dante moved closer, and Maya could smell his cologne. Something dark and expensive, cedar and amber. Is there anything else? Maya lifted her chin, meeting his intense gaze. Yes. I need you to understand that I'm not doing this just for the money. Your son deserves someone who sees him as a person, not a paycheck. So if that's all this is to you, a transaction, then find someone else. For a long moment, Dante just looked at her. Then slowly, a real smile spread across his face. You're exactly what he needs. Fierce, honest, unafraid to speak truth to power. He reached out and very gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. And you're exactly what I need too, though I suspect for very different reasons. The touch sent electricity down Maya's spine. His hand lingered for a heartbeat longer than necessary before he pulled away. Your security detail starts tomorrow, he said, his voice returning to business mode. Marco will be your primary guard. He's been with me for 15 years. I trust him with my life, which means I trust him with yours. He'll brief you on protocols. Protocols? How to stay safe. What to do in an emergency. How to recognize potential threats. Dante's expression darkened. I hope you'll never need any of it, but in my world, hope isn't a strategy. Maya nodded slowly, processing everything. When do I officially start with Matteo? Tomorrow morning. I've cleared my schedule for the week so I can be here while you two build rapport. Dr. Morrison will come by in the afternoon to meet you and discuss his care plan. Dante checked his watch. It's late. You should get some rest. As Maya turned to leave, his voice stopped her. Maya? She looked back. Thank you, he said quietly, for seeing my son, for staying despite the risks, for giving us both something we'd lost. What's that? Hope. The next morning, Maya woke to sunlight streaming through her windows and the sound of birds in the garden. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then memory crashed back. The mansion, Matteo, Dante, the promise she'd made to a little boy who needed her. Maria brought breakfast at 7. Fresh fruit, yogurt, eggs prepared perfectly, and coffee that tasted like heaven. There was also a note in elegant handwriting. Matteo woke at 6, asking for Maya's song. Join us in the breakfast room when you're ready. Maya dressed quickly in jeans and a simple blouse. She still needed to figure out what counted as appropriate attire for a live-in caregiver in a mansion, and made her way to the breakfast room. She heard them before she saw them. Matteo's voice singing, "Yueliang dai biao audition." The melody was perfect, his pronunciation surprisingly good for someone who didn't speak Mandarin. Then Dante's deeper voice joining in, trying to follow along. "Yueliang dai biao." Maya stepped into the doorway and found them at the table. Matteo was in a booster seat, wearing a t-shirt with a T-Rex on it. Dante was next to him in slacks and a white dress shirt, no tie, sleeves rolled up. They were both attempting to sing her grandmother's lullaby, Matteo with confidence and Dante with endearing uncertainty. You're both doing great, Maya said, smiling. Matteo's head snapped toward her, and his whole face lit up. Maya, song, we practice. I hear that. You sound wonderful. She moved to the chair across from them. Good morning. Coffee? Dante asked, already reaching for the pot. Please. As he poured, Maya noticed the dark circles under his eyes. Did you sleep at all? Some. He set the cup in front of her. I was reading about sensory processing disorders until 3 a.m., trying to understand what Matteo experiences. What did you learn? That I've been doing almost everything wrong. His jaw tightened. The nannies, the therapists, even me. We've been trying to force him to adapt to a world that causes him pain, instead of adapting the world to fit his needs. You didn't know, Maya said gently, and now you do. That's what matters. Matteo had been eating pieces of waffle with his fingers, arranging them by size before eating them. Now he looked at Maya and said, very clearly, Eat with us. Every day? Maya's throat tightened. Every day, she promised. Good. He returned to his waffles, content. Dante watched his son with an expression Maya was starting to recognize. Wonder mixed with relief, mixed with love so fierce it was almost painful to witness. After breakfast, Dante had a brief meeting with his advisors that couldn't be postponed. Marco will stay with you and Matteo, he told Maya. Show him whatever you want to see in the house. Get comfortable. Marco turned out to be a mountain of a man, 6'5", built like he lifted trucks for fun, with a scar running through his left eyebrow and surprisingly gentle brown eyes. He wore a dark suit that couldn't quite hide the weapon at his hip. Ma'am, he said, his voice a deep rumble. I'll be with you whenever you leave Mr. Castellano's or Matteo's presence. I'll maintain distance to give you privacy, but I'll always be watching. What exactly are you watching for? Maya asked. Threats. Anyone who approaches you without clearance. Unusual behavior, potential danger. Marco's expression was professional but not unkind. My job is to make sure you stay safe so you can do your job, taking care of that little boy. Matteo, who'd been playing with a toy train, suddenly looked up at Marco. Marco big, he observed. Very big, Marco agreed, a smile tugging at his lips. Big but nice, Matteo decided, then returned to his train. Maya spent the morning exploring with Matteo, learning his routines and preferences. He showed her his favorite spots in the mansion, a window seat in the library where sunlight came in at just the right angle, a corner of the music room where the acoustics made sounds echo perfectly, the kitchen where the chef let him watch, but not touch, the stand mixer because he loved mechanical things. She learned that he organized everything by specific systems, toys by color, books by size, his clothes by texture. She learned that he hated loud, sudden noises, but loved music. She learned that he needed time to transition between activities, that surprises made him anxious, that he communicated more clearly when he was calm and comfortable. She also learned that he was funny. When she accidentally called his T-Rex toy a velociraptor, he'd given her a look of such exaggerated offense that she'd burst out laughing. Then he'd very seriously explain the difference, complete with hand gestures showing relative sizes and tooth structures. "You're right," Maya had said. "I apologize to T-Rex." "T-Rex accept," Matteo had said solemnly, then grinned. "But you learn better?" By lunch, Maya felt like she was beginning to understand the map of Matteo's mind, the patterns and preferences, the things that brought comfort, and the things that caused distress. Dr. Morrison arrived at 2:00. She was a woman in her early 50s, with kind eyes and the no-nonsense demeanor of someone who'd spent decades working with children. "You must be Maya," she said, shaking her hand. "Dante has told me remarkable things about yesterday." They sat in Dante's study, him behind his desk, Dr. Morrison in one of the chairs, and Maya in the other. Matteo was in the music room with Marco, playing with a music box that played Beethoven. "I've been Matteo's developmental pediatrician since he was 3, Dr. Morrison explained. "I've watched him regress over the past 8 months, and I've tried everything I can think of to help him process his mother's death. Nothing has worked." She looked at Maya with genuine curiosity. "Until you. What did you do differently?" "I didn't try to stop his meltdown," Maya said. "I tried to understand what was causing it." "The lights and the smoke detector," Dr. Morrison said, nodding. "Sensory triggers. It seems so obvious in hindsight." "Everyone was focused on controlling his behavior instead of addressing his needs," Maya continued. "But behavior is communication. He was screaming because he was in pain, and everyone was trying to make him stop screaming instead of stopping his pain." Dante leaned forward, his elbows on his desk. "What do we need to change? In the house? In his routines? In everything?" Dr. Morrison pulled out a tablet. "Based on what Maya did yesterday, I'd recommend several modifications." They spent 2 hours going through Matteo's needs, replacing all fluorescent lights with soft LEDs, installing blackout curtains so he could control light levels, creating a sensory room with weighted blankets and soft textures, removing strong-scented cleaning products, establishing visual schedules so he knew what to expect. "He also needs communication tools," Dr. Morrison said. "He's not fully nonverbal. We know he can speak, but it's clearly effortful for him. We should introduce picture cards, maybe start teaching him sign language as alternatives when words are too hard." "I can teach him basic signs," Maya offered. "My brother learned them when he was little." Dr. Morrison smiled. "Perfect. And Maya, I want to be clear about something. You're not replacing me or his other therapists. You're the coordinator, the person who knows him best, who he trusts most. We all work for you now, supporting your decisions about his care." Maya blinked. "That's a lot of responsibility." "Can you handle it?" Dante asked, his dark eyes searching hers. She thought about Matteo's smile when he saw her this morning, about the way he'd said good when she promised to eat breakfast with him every day, about the trust already building between them. "Yes," she said. "I can handle it." The first week passed in a blur of changes and adjustments. Contractors came to retrofit Matteo's room and create the sensory space. Maya worked with Dr. Morrison to establish new routines. She introduced simple sign language. More, all done, help, break, and Matteo picked them up with remarkable speed. She also established rituals, morning song before breakfast, afternoon reading time in the library's window seat, evening song before bed. Matteo thrived on the predictability, his meltdowns decreasing dramatically. Dante was present for all of it. He'd cleared his schedule, delegating most of his business to his underbosses, focusing entirely on learning how to communicate with his son. Maya watched him transform from uncertain to confident. The first time Matteo used sign language to ask Dante for help, and Dante understood and responded appropriately, the look on both their faces had made Maya's eyes sting with tears. But there were also moments that had nothing to do with Matteo. Moments when Dante's hand would brush hers while they worked on a puzzle with Matteo, and the touch would linger just a second too long. Moments when she'd look up from reading to Matteo and find Dante watching her with an intensity that made her breath catch. Moments when their eyes would meet across the room, and the air would feel charged with something neither of them was ready to name. On the 8th night, after Matteo was asleep, Dante asked Maya to join him in his study. "I have to go back to work tomorrow," he said, pouring them both drinks, whiskey for him, wine for her. There are things I've been putting off that can't wait any longer. Maya accepted the wine glass, noticing how his fingers brushed hers in the exchange. Matteo will be fine. We have good routines now. I know. You've worked miracles. Dante sat across from her, closer than usual. But I need to warn you about something. There's been chatter in certain circles about a new woman in my household, about someone close to Matteo. Maya's stomach tightened. Your enemies. They're asking questions, taking pictures. My security team has intercepted 3 surveillance attempts on the estate this week alone. His expression darkened. It's only a matter of time before someone tries something. What kind of something? Could be anything. A kidnapping attempt, an attack on the estate, someone trying to get close to you when you're off the grounds. Dante leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. That's why, starting tomorrow, you don't leave the estate without a full security detail. Not to go shopping, not to visit your family, not for anything. That seems extreme. In my world, extreme is how people stay alive. His eyes held hers. I've already lost my wife and daughter. I can't... His voice cracked slightly before he controlled it. I won't lose anyone else I care about. The words hung in the air between them. Dante, Maya said softly. He stood abruptly, moving to the window. I know this complicates things. I know I'm your employer, and you're Matteo's caregiver, and there are lines that shouldn't be crossed. But I need you to understand that you've become important to this family. To him, yes. But also to me. Maya set down her wineglass and stood. She crossed to him slowly, giving him time to object, to step back, to maintain distance. He didn't move. She stopped next to him, close enough to feel the heat radiating from his body. You're important to me too, she admitted. Both of you. And that terrifies me. Dante turned to face her, and the vulnerability in his eyes took her breath away. Because of who I am? What I do? Because I came here for a job, and somehow it became everything. Maya's voice dropped to almost a whisper. Because I can't stop thinking about you. Because when you look at me the way you're looking at me right now, I forget every reason this is a terrible idea. It is a terrible idea, Dante agreed, his hand coming up to cup her face. His thumb stroked her cheekbone with devastating gentleness. You work for me. You take care of my son. My life is dangerous. Getting close to me puts you in danger. I know. I should fire you right now. Send you back to Queens where you'd be safe. You won't, Maya said, her hand coming up to cover his. Because Matteo needs me, and because you're not ready to let me go. Dante's jaw clenched. No, God help me. I'm not. They stood there, a breath apart, the tension crackling between them like electricity. Maya could see the internal war in his eyes, responsibility versus desire, protection versus need. Then his phone buzzed urgently, 3 times in rapid succession. Dante's entire demeanor changed instantly. He pulled away from Maya, checking his phone, his expression going cold and hard. What is it? Maya asked. Marco, Dante said tightly. Someone just breached the east perimeter. Before Maya could respond, an alarm started blaring, a sound so loud and sudden that she flinched. Red lights began flashing in the hallway. Dante grabbed her arm. Stay with me, now! He pulled her out of the study and down the hallway, moving with lethal purpose. Men in dark suits appeared from nowhere, all armed, all moving with military precision. Status, Dante barked at one of them. 3 hostiles, sir, armed. They disabled the exterior cameras before breaching. Marco has secured Matteo in the safe room. Relief flashed across Dante's face. Good. Where are they now? Ground floor, east wing. They're looking for something, or someone. Dante's hand tightened on Maya's arm. They're looking for her. The realization hit Maya like ice water. They're here for me? Marco. Dante spoke into his phone. I'm bringing Maya to the safe room. Full lockdown protocol. No one gets through. They were moving again, through corridors Maya barely recognized, downstairs she hadn't known existed. Behind them, she could hear shouting, the sound of breaking glass, gunshots that made her ears ring. Don't look back, Dante commanded. Just keep moving. They reached a reinforced door that looked like it belonged in a bank vault. Dante pressed his palm to a scanner, and it slid open with a hydraulic hiss. Inside, the safe room was exactly what it sounded like. A bunker. Reinforced walls, security monitors showing every angle of the estate, weapons stored in locked cabinets, supplies for days if needed. Matteo was there, in Marco's arms, his hands over his ears, his eyes squeezed shut. He was humming frantically, Maya's lullaby over and over, using it to block out the chaos. Matteo, Maya breathed, moving toward him. The boy's eyes snapped open. Maya! Loud! Too loud! Marco carefully transferred Matteo to Maya's arms, and she immediately started humming with him, their voices blending, creating a bubble of calm in the storm. Dante watched them, for a heartbeat, something breaking and reforming in his expression. Then he turned to Marco. Stay with them. Don't open this door for anyone except me. If I'm not back in an hour... Sir, Marco interrupted. You're not going out there. They came into my home. They threatened what's mine. Dante's voice was pure ice. I'm absolutely going out there. He moved to the weapons cabinet, unlocking it with another palm scan. He pulled out a gun, sleek, black, deadly, and checked it with practiced efficiency. Dante, no, Maya said, still holding Matteo. Let your security handle it. He crossed to her, his hand cupping the back of her head, pulling her close until his forehead rested against hers. Matteo was between them, the three of them forming a tight circle. I told you I'd protect you both, Dante said quietly. That means eliminating threats before they get close enough to hurt you. You could die out there. Then you'll take care of my son and know that I died keeping both of you safe. He pulled back, his hand lingering on her face for one more second. Then he looked at Matteo. Be good for Maya, Figlio. Papa will be back soon. Promise? Matteo asked, his voice small and scared. Promise. Then Dante was gone, the vault door sealing shut behind him with a heavy thunk that sounded terrifyingly final. Maya sank to the floor, still holding Matteo, still humming even though her voice shook. On the monitors, she could see Dante moving through the mansion with deadly grace, flanked by his men, hunting the people who dared to enter his home. She watched him turn a corner and disappear from view, and she prayed to every god she'd ever heard of that he'd keep his promise to come back. The safe room was soundproof, but Maya's imagination filled the silence with every terrible possibility. She sat on the floor with Matteo in her lap, both of them humming the lullaby on repeat. The boy had stopped covering his ears, but his body remained tense, his fingers gripping her shirt with white-knuckled intensity. Marco stood by the monitors, his expression carved from stone, his hand resting on his weapon. Boss knows what he's doing, he said quietly, more to himself than to her. He survived worse than this. How much worse? Maya asked, her voice barely above a whisper. You don't want to know, ma'am. On the screens, she caught glimpses of movement, Dante's men sweeping through rooms, guns raised, coordinated and lethal. But no sign of Dante himself. No sign of the intruders. 23 minutes passed. Each one felt like an hour. Then gunfire erupted. Loud enough that even in the soundproofed room, they heard muffled pops like distant firecrackers. Matteo whimpered and buried his face in Maya's neck. It's okay, baby, she murmured, even though nothing felt okay. Your papa is strong. He's coming back. More shots, shouting. Then silence. The silence was somehow worse than the noise. Marco's phone buzzed. He answered immediately. Status. His face relaxed slightly. Copy that. He looked at Maya. Threats neutralized. Boss is on his way down. Maya's breath rushed out in relief so powerful it made her dizzy. He's okay. Minor injuries. Nothing serious. Define minor. Before Marco could answer, the vault door's locks disengaged with a series of heavy clunks. It swung open, and Dante stood in the doorway. His white shirt was torn and bloodied. A cut above his left eye dripped crimson down his temple. His knuckles were split and raw, but he was alive, standing, whole. Papa! Matteo scrambled out of Maya's arms and ran to his father. Dante dropped to his knees, catching his son, pulling him close with a fierceness that spoke of how close he'd come to losing everything. I'm here, Figlio. Papa's here. You promised, Matteo said, his voice muffled against Dante's shoulder. I always keep my promises to you. Maya stood on shaking legs, her eyes cataloging every injury, every tear in his clothes, every sign of the violence he'd just enacted to keep them safe. Dante looked up at her over Matteo's head, and the intensity in his gaze made her breath stop. Are you hurt? He asked. No, you are. It's nothing. Dante, Marco, take Matteo to his room. Stay with him. Dante gently disentangled himself from his son. Maya will be up in a few minutes to sing you to sleep. Promise. Matteo looked between them anxiously. Promise, Maya said, finding her voice. 10 minutes. I just need to make sure your papa gets cleaned up first. After Marco led Matteo away, Dante moved into the safe room and sealed the door behind them. The space suddenly felt much smaller with just the two of them. You're bleeding. Maya said, reaching for him. He caught her wrist gently. I'm fine. You're not fine. Sit down and let me look at you. Maya, sit down. Something in her tone made him comply. He sank onto the bench built into the wall, and Maya found the first aid kit stored in one of the cabinets. She worked in silence, cleaning the cut on his forehead, cataloging the bruises already forming on his ribs where his torn shirt revealed skin. Her hands trembled slightly as she worked, the adrenaline finally catching up to her. 3 men, Dante said quietly. Sent by the Moretti family. They've been trying to move into my territory for months. Tonight was supposed to send a message. What kind of message? That I'm vulnerable, that they can get to what I love. His jaw clenched as she dabbed antiseptic on the cut. They were wrong. What happened to them? They won't be sending any more messages. Maya's hand stilled. She understood what he meant, what he'd done. She should have been horrified, should have been repulsed by the violence, by the cold certainty in his voice. Instead, all she felt was gratitude. He'd kept them safe. He'd protected his son. He'd come back like he'd promised. You're not afraid of me, Dante observed, studying her face. You should be. I am. Afraid, Maya admitted, resuming her work. But not of you. I'm afraid of what could have happened. I'm afraid of how close we came to losing you. I'm afraid of how much you've come to mean to me in just 8 days. Dante's hand came up to cup her face, stopping her movements. 8 days, he repeated. That's all it's been. 8 days, and you've changed everything. Dante, I'm in love with you. The words came out raw, honest, inevitable. I know it's too fast. I know it's insane. I know all the reasons this can't work. But standing out there, fighting my way back to this room, all I could think about was getting back to you. To both of you. Maya's throat tightened. You're my employer. I take care of your son. I know what it is. And I don't care. He pulled her closer until she was standing between his knees. You can say no. You can tell me this is crossing a line. You can walk away and I'll double your salary and never mention this again. But I need you to know that I'm falling in love with you, Maya Chen. Actually, I think I've already fallen. Maya looked down at this dangerous, powerful man who just killed to protect them, who was looking at her like she was his salvation instead of his employee. I can't walk away, she whispered. Not from you. Not from Matteo. Not from this family that somehow became mine in just 8 days. The kiss was inevitable. His hands tangled in her hair, pulling her down to him, and she went willingly, her mouth meeting his with equal desperation. It tasted like fear transformed into relief, like danger bleeding into safety, like everything impossible becoming suddenly, terrifyingly real. When they broke apart, both breathless, Dante rested his forehead against hers. This changes everything. I know. You'll be a target now, more than before. I know that too. I'll assign you a full security detail. You won't be able to go anywhere without protection. Your family will be kept safe, Maya finished. You've already promised me that. I trust you. You shouldn't, but I do. She kissed him again, softer this time. And I'm choosing this. Choosing you. Choosing Matteo. Choosing all of it, even the dangerous parts. Dante's arms came around her, holding her like she was something precious and breakable. Then I promise you this. I will protect you with everything I have. I will build walls around you that no one can breach. I will make sure that loving me never becomes the thing that destroys you. Loving you isn't what will destroy me, Maya said. Losing you would. They stayed like that for a long moment, holding each other in the aftermath of violence and terror, finding peace in the storm. Then Matteo's voice crackled through the intercom Marco had activated. Maya, song time? Maya pulled back, smiling despite everything. Duty calls. Our son needs you, Dante said, and the casual way he said, our son, made Maya's heart do something complicated. She followed him, upstairs, where Matteo was already in bed, Marco standing guard by the door. The boy's eyes were heavy but anxious. Both? He asked hopefully, looking between Maya and Dante. Both, Dante confirmed, sitting on one side of the bed while Maya sat on the other. They sang together, Maya's voice, Dante's deeper one, and Matteo's softer tone blending in the middle. The lullaby her grandmother had taught her, now becoming this broken family's anthem. When they finished, Matteo's eyes were closed, his breathing even and peaceful. He's out, Dante whispered. They stood carefully, moving toward the door. But before they left, Matteo's voice stopped them, drowsy but clear. Love Maya. Love Papa. Family. Maya's eyes filled with tears. Dante's hand found hers, their fingers intertwining. Family, Dante agreed quietly. Yes, Figlio. We're a family. 3 months later, Maya stood in the garden watching Matteo play with a new toy train set. He was talking now, not constantly, not always, but more and more each day. Full sentences, complex thoughts, his brilliant mind finally finding ways to express itself. Dr. Morrison called it remarkable progress. Maya called it Matteo finally feeling safe enough to share his voice with the world. Strong arms wrapped around her waist from behind, and she leaned back into Dante's embrace. What are you thinking about? He murmured against her ear. How different everything is from 3 months ago. How much has changed? Regrets? Not a single one. It hadn't been easy. The Moretti family had made 2 more attempts before Dante had ended their threat permanently. Maya's family had been relocated to a safer neighborhood, her father's medical bills paid in full, her siblings' college funds established, her mother finally able to retire from the factory. They didn't know the full truth about Dante, about the danger. They just knew that Maya had found a position with a wealthy family who valued her work and treated her well. Which was true, as far as it went. Matteo wants to show you something, Dante said, releasing her. She walked over to where Matteo was building an elaborate track system. What did you want to show me? He looked up with a smile that still made her heart melt every time. Made a song. New song. For you. You wrote a song for me? With Papa. He helped. Matteo stood up suddenly shy. Want to hear? More than anything. What followed was a simple melody, something Matteo had composed on his music box and taught himself to hum. It was beautiful, hauntingly so, and completely original. When he finished, Maya was crying. That was perfect, sweetheart. The most beautiful song I've ever heard. Better than Grandma's song? He asked anxiously. Different than Grandma's song. That one is special because it brought us together. This one is special because it's ours. Both songs are perfect. Matteo threw his arms around her waist. Love you, Maya Mama. Maya Mama. He'd started calling her that 2 weeks ago, tentatively at first, then with increasing confidence when neither she nor Dante had objected. I love you too, baby, she whispered into his hair. That night, after Matteo was asleep, Dante led Maya to his study. He pulled a small box from his desk drawer. 3 months, he said. I know it's too soon by normal standards, but nothing about us has been normal. He opened the box to reveal a ring. Elegant, simple, perfect. A deep blue sapphire surrounded by diamonds. Blue like the music box, Maya breathed. Like Matteo's favorite color. Marry me, Dante said. Not because it's expected or conventional. Marry me because you've become the heart of this family. Because my son calls you Mama and means it. Because I can't imagine a single day of my life without you in it. Maya looked at this man who'd been a stranger 3 months ago, who'd become everything. Partner, protector, love. She looked at the ring that symbolized not just a promise between them, but a family forged from chaos and choice. Yes, she said. Yes to all of it. He slid the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly, like everything else between them. Unlikely but inevitable, dangerous but right. I promise you, Dante said, pulling her close. I will spend every day of the rest of my life making sure you never regret this choice. I won't, Maya said confidently, because the best choices aren't the safe ones. They're the ones that matter. From down the hall, they heard Matteo's music box playing, the new song he'd written, the melody that was uniquely theirs. A family built on a lullaby, strengthened by love, and protected by a man who'd learned that true power wasn't about control or fear. It was about cherishing what mattered most and fighting like hell to keep it safe. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you love this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.